Alright, y'all, I'm back with yet another video, and this one's going to be a little different yet interesting. So, I was watching a volleyball player um, give his views on a volleyball anime I like to watch called Haikyuu, and he's just kind of watching one of the seasons, one of the episodes, and kind of giving his take based on him playing, semi-professional volleyball and everything, and certain details that the creators of the show got accurate with real volleyball and whatnot. Now, just to preface all of this, I like volleyball. Actually, that's an understatement. I love volleyball. It is one of my favorite sports, and that's one of the things I'm looking forward to during this Olympics is watching volleyball. Of all the sports out there, outside of basketball, and I honestly, if I have to decide, I probably like playing volleyball. This shit here. But outside of basketball, I probably would play volleyball before I would play basketball, if I'm being honest. It's just one of those sports I've always liked. And so, yeah, I was watching that anime, and he said something that triggered a thought that I had made earlier this year. And long story short, he was talking about, sometimes in volleyball, when a blocker, like, people who, and this is just for the sport, they assess a player's defensive ability by the number of blocks they acquire. When in fact, in actuality, it's not always about the stat. It's about what you do to set up the other player on your team to get or defend something. So what happened was there was a scene. Hinata is the main character. He's going for an attack on. He was going for an attack on the volleyball. The opposing defender jumped up, put his hands up to block off or limit the area that he could attack, and forced him to just make a straight line shot. His other teammate was right there to receive the ball. And so that's an excellent defensive play. Now, you guys are like, okay, you spent the first 2.5 minutes talking about volleyball. What the fuck does this have to do with basketball? Well, I've talked about on this channel how, people don't really properly analyze defense well, or the way I would look at it is they don't talk about defense in terms of the team aspect of it. It's always individual one-on-one defense. And yeah, sure, that matters. But for instance, Eric Bledsoe was an all-defensive player on Milwaukee, and a lot of times he was just feeding the offensive player into Giannis or Brook Lopez to block their shots. You know what I'm saying? And so, to me, it's just like, okay, that's excellent defense. It's excellent team defense. Steph is touted about being a bad defender, but his team defense, his IQ on that end and everything is extremely high. He's a really good team defender, even if his one-on-one defense isn't the best. We're talking about teams like the Pelicans. Their team defense isn't that good, nor is their own ball defense that good. And to me, it's funny. I don't know if you guys know this, but Stan Van Gundy recently did a podcast interview when they were talking about, it was like his first major interview since he's left the Pelicans. And one of the things he mentioned was how he felt like they had way too many young players and they needed a lot more vets and everything. And you start looking at some of these other teams that are in the playoffs. CP3 and Jay Crowder for Phoenix mixed with Ayton, Booker, Campaign, and some of these other guys. You know what I'm saying? They got a huge vet presence there. I made another video talking about how we needed more vets. Stan basically, agreed with what I said. Some of these other teams got some veteran leadership on that team. Clint Capella, Lou Will, and other guys. They got guys on that team that are respected and play a ton of minutes for them. They all have an impact on those teams. Giannis and them already play defense at a high level. Most of their guys are older. But, you got Drew. You got Chris Middleton, who's older than Giannis by a few years. P.J. Tucker, Brook Lopez. And I'm not sure if Robin Lopez still plays with them, but he might. I don't know. But again, the point is they have this presence on the team that impacts everything that these guys want to do. You talk about the Pelicans and their lack of defense. I think veteran presence would help them, especially in key positions, especially if they're, you know, respected. You know what I'm saying? Last year, the first year, you know, with Miami and Tyler Hero, they got to the finals. We could argue about, oh, well, they had to do this, blah, 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 but you got Jimmy Butler, and you had quite a few guys on that team. Dragic, there's a lot of guys on that team, so I'm not going to be able to recall through memory like that, but the point is, you got a hearty mix of those guys on the team that help facilitate growth and hold these guys accountable. So if we're going back to the Haikyuu reference of that video I saw, part of the reason the Pelicans suck on defense is because nobody is there to hold them accountable. You know, Steven Adams, you know, he's there, but he's not one of those guys where he's going to hold the rest of the guys accountable. You know, he hasn't done too much in his career to warrant that. You know what I'm saying? CP3 is well respected. You know what I'm saying? PJ Tucker, a bunch of conference finals, you know, playing heavy matchups against some of the best. He's respected. Clint Capella, same thing. A lot of these Houston guys, well respected because, you know, they took Golden State to like 6 or 7. You know what I'm saying? Conference finals, you know, damn near championship level teams, right? These guys, you know, impact your team. You know, these guys have cachet. Nobody, you get James Johnson, Wesley Wandu, who's not really a vet in my eyes, but JJ Redick, you know, where's it going to come from? So they need vets. But, you know, to this defense thing again, like, what are they going to do on the defensive end? Like, who's going to be out there with them to hold them accountable? Like, I would love to have Draymond Green for this team. I really would. Despite his shooting woes, like, honestly, I would rather somehow get Steven Adams and Draymond and swap them out if possible. And I think Draymond would light a fire under everybody else because y'all know he's not going to take any of that bullshit with them. He's one of the smartest guys on the team defensively. But, and y'all know me. Y'all already know how I feel about this. I don't think Zion is the person you need to dig into the most on defense. I think it's B.I. I think B.I. is the one who's shown the ability to be good defensively. Zion can get there maybe, but to me, he's way too slow-footed to guard him when he's too short to guard the taller guys. I just think he's one of those guys who's never going to have it on the defensive end. But his offensive game will probably outweigh that overall. But Brandon Ingram, he's got the tools. Like, you don't need him to put up 26, 27 a game. But you need that guy out there who's going to, you know, help with that. Sometimes these guys out here on the perimeter are just getting beat. They're not getting into guys enough. They're like, and it's like Lonzo in particular with the Lakers, and I think B.I. too, you kind of could see some of what they were trying to do. They would take away baseline and try to funnel these guys in. I mean, they try to take away the front of the paint and try to funnel these guys through like the baseline, the backside, and basically limit their ability to attack the basket. Right into Brook Lopez, right into Julius Randle. You know, even when they had Tyson Chandler for a little bit, and him and JaVale McGee, you know, let me, you know, push these guys into them and let them make a play on the ball. And that's good team defense, right? You dig into them, you got to force them to go one way instead of let's play this drop coverage the entire fucking time. And I heard CP3 talking about how, you know, segue slightly off, but thinking that I can't remember where I saw it, but CP3 was talking about, yeah, it was after they won the Western Conference with Rachel Nichols. He was saying, because they were talking about his mid-range jumper, that elbow shot, and he said when he was on the Clippers, teams were playing drop coverage, and he was like, okay, if teams are going to drop coverage, they're going to leave this elbow open. That's got to be something I got to master and perfect, because if they're going to give me that shot, well, that shot's going to be there all day. He's been carving up teams because teams are playing drop coverage. And so he's just going to get to the elbow and pull up the shoot. Now, I know I'm kind of going all over the place with this, so bear with me. I'm trying to hit a bunch of topics today. Last year, I was talking about Lonzo Ball in the offseason and his need to develop the mid-range. And we saw kind of a tremendous improvement in that this year. In the drop coverage, if he gets even better to that point where he's starting to master it like Chris Paul did, that's going to be a shot he's going to go to throughout the entire league when they're playing drop coverage. Because the center is going to fall back to protect the rim. Once he's in a pick and roll, and I've told you, pick and roll basically to me is transition. Once you get that guy behind you, you got an advantage. It's, your guys and the center. And Lonzo, who has a genetic advantage because he's taller than most of the other ones. This is why Ben Simmons don't need a three. He just need a mid-range. If he can get to that elbow and can knock down the mid-range, he's fine. Because you can't stop him. You literally can't do shit with him. He's so tall. These taller guards got to have a mid-range game. But to the point here, if CP3 can go into the playoffs and understands that he's a counter meta. What he did was he said, this is what the league's meta game is. How do I get an advantage against the league's meta game? And he was like, that what I don't need is to necessarily be knocking down a ton of threes the entire game. What I do need is to figure out what 90% of the league is running and figure out the shot that fits the best counter that. Okay, pick and roll, dribble to the elbow, rise up, shoot. If I need to, fade away, shoot. That's open. Lonzo this year, drop coverage. Okay, I may want to attack the basket, but if they're backing off to the point to take away the passing lanes, let me get to this elbow, shoot. He started off at the beginning of the season favoring like the left crust of the court, and he slowly started toward the end of the season moving to the right. So he could hit it from both sides. But the point is mastering the metagame. That'll be good for Lonzo. Lonzo has to perfect that this offseason. Or if not perfect it, he needs to get even better with it. See, that needs to be a go-to shot for him. But even though, as this pertains to defense, you know what I'm saying, if you're a defender, you're trying to defend Alonzo pick and roll with someone and he's getting separation. The big has to be worried about his passing lanes and his passing ability. They're going to sag off. They're going to go into drop coverage on him. So he's just going to take the mid-range. That's going to be, he could easily average 18 points per game just because he took mid-range jump shots. But let me flip this back to the original point. Like I said, I'm going to be all over the place because I have a bunch of stuff to talk about, and I got my son, so I'm trying to squeeze all this in because I'm not sure how many times I'm going to be able to make videos. So I'm trying to hit a whole bunch of topics right now. But for the Pelicans, they've got to get to a point they need a shot blocker. They already have Jackson Hayes. I hope Jackson Hayes puts on another 10 pounds. Jackson Hayes puts on another 10 pounds, GG. He should they'll probably bench him to start off the season. And this is assuming they don't get another suitable big guy and they still keep Steven Adams. He'll be off the bench until maybe halfway through the season. Halfway through the season, they probably might make the switch and say, okay, we're going Jackson Hayes the rest of the way. And we'll see what happens with that. But if Jackson Hayes puts on another 10 pounds, that's your shot blocker. And you'll notice sometimes, too, when they had Jackson Hayes in some of those lineups with Zion and Lonzo and the rest of those guys in pick and roll coverage, one, he's athletic enough that, any of them could get him the ball. But even on the defensive side, he made it. His impact on the game was this. When Steven Adams in the game, you pick and roll, you beat Steven Adams to the paint. Even in drop coverage, Steven Adams is not a shot blocker. You can go at Steven Adams the entire game. Jackson Hayes comes in. Jackson Hayes can jump to the ball, and he's athletic enough and young enough and spry enough that he can react to you want to take a step back or something. He can get a hand up on you and affect a shot. He's going to be what you need going forward. If not, you're gonna get a JaVale McGee and whatnot. But I've been seeing a lot of trade scenarios that include Nikhil Alexander Walker or Kira's and Jackson Hayes's and stuff. And to me, it's like it's funny how, oh, they're the future, but now y'all trying to future their ass out for another player. Damian Lillard, that shit ain't happening. But that's the whole point. Sometimes defense is not a one-on-one thing. And I don't think we always should look at it as a one-on-one thing. Yes, one-on-one defense matters and is important. If you got a guy like a Ben Simmons who can lock down multiple positions on the court, that's a godsend. But sometimes you got to use what you have. Rudy Gobert, one of the reasons their defense is so good is because of him. You funnel guys into Rudy takes care of it. It's just that simple. And the paint is one of the most efficient shots there is. But if he's there taking away shots, people are going to talk about, well, he don't put up these, ridiculous numbers. But the point is, the dude affects everybody in the league's point of attack shot. You got to adjust because he is such a menacing presence. And you got to give credit also, and that's the funny thing about this on defense. People want to talk about his individual play, but a lot of his individual play, if you go look at the tape, Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson, Royce O'Neal, Mike Conley, funneling these guys into him, and he's making a play on the ball. He's making a play on these guys. His reputation precedes him. You know what I'm saying? And you need that. Okay, you need a mobile center in the league. Your center can't just be slow-footed unless you're playing someone like the Joker, who does so much stuff, rebounding, shooting, passing. Unless you got otherworldly talented guys like that, you need a center that can move. Clint Capella, very mobile, can get his hands on balls, very strong, very physical presence. Miles Turner gets space the floor. Even though he may not be as good defensively as some of these other guys, he's still up there as far as some of the better centers in the league that you can get. And so guys like Lonzo and B.I. benefited on the defensive end under Luke Walton because, okay, I'm just going to funnel you guys right into JaVale, Brook Lopez, Julius Randle, rookie year. Some of these guys are from rookie year. Tyson Chandler. And that's the game plan. You know what I'm saying? That's the way we're going to play. And they're going to make a play on the ball. And you're going to look good because all you have to do is just get into them and force them to make uncomfortable decisions. You take away as many of their options attacking the basket by face guarding one-on-one. And then when you funnel it in, they only have a certain number of options. You help elevate your center's game because he knows what the options is. He just has to play the right option or take away said option and leave the most inefficient option left for the offensive player to make. That's simple defense. So to me, it was funny just hearing, another guy, a coach, a player, a trainer, talk about this in another sport because these same principles apply in basketball. I like football. I like tennis. The one-on-one games like tennis, unless you're playing doubles, it kind of don't apply here. But in other sports, team sports, when you're playing defense, sometimes those principles apply in general. You got to be able to use what you got and funnel guys or take away options. And I think at the end of the day, defense is just simply that, taking away options. You're not going to stop every shot, especially at the highest level. People are just too good. Guys are too good. Even in women's sports, the ladies are too good at the highest level. And so you got to do what you got to do. And sometimes it's just like, hey, you just got to shake your hand on it. That game with the Clippers where DeAndre Ayton got that, tip in, I would have I remember OG Ricky, he made a statement that I 100% agree with. I'm taking away the rim. If Booker gets a shot in mid-range, he makes it. You shake his hand. Have a good day. Good game. And I'm that same way. Sometimes it's not necessarily about stopping everything. Sometimes you just have to play the numbers. You just have to play for the opportunity. it's a less efficient shot for you to take a mid-range jumper versus a tip in at the rim. I'm gonna live with Devin Booker if he makes his jump shot, but I'm not gonna give you the rim. I'm not gonna give you the rim. Whatever goes on, you are not getting access to the rim. And we could talk about that play. So many things happen. Boogie wasn't shifted to the right to prevent the alley oop and everything. That's one of the problems. The switching on the because they use Booker to set a screen um, for Aiton, which got him the bump on Zubac, and he couldn't get back to recover in time. Okay, stuff like that, man. Little textbook stuff like that. They messed up on the execution, but they played it. They played it wrong. The play should have been, hey, if we gotta let Booker take a mid range, we let him take a mid range. I don't care how good he is. That's still the worst shot of someone getting the tip in at the rim. Speaking to my previous point, though, Zubac ain't athletic enough to keep up with Aiton. And I even think I mentioned that too online. I think I said the center position was going to be a problem in that matchup because Aiton was going to be a problem. And I think some people disagreed with me, but as that series went on, you started to find out they had no answer for Aiton. And Zubac wasn't fast enough or athletic enough or mobile enough to keep up with him. Nobody on that team was. They needed Serge Ibaka. They didn't have him. But, that's all I kind of wanted to really talk about. I think I liked. No, I don't think I. Yeah, because it wasn't posted. I know people have been taking screen snippets of the Stan Van Gundy interview. I listened to most of it. After a while, I just kind of turned it off because it's like I really don't care about all the other stuff, the playoff shit. It really don't matter to me. But he touched on a couple things like. To his knowledge, Zion's family had nothing to do with the decision. There's just a generic disagreement between him and coaching and what Griff wanted for the coaching and the team. And so it was just like, and Stan said it became evident like halfway through the season, like what it was. So, he gave his opinion. One of the things he thought was the team just was entirely too young. They needed some vets. And he said, in particular, the only shooters that they had on the team was Zoe and Brandon Ingram. Nobody else on the team was a shooter. And yet you got people who were trying to say Zoe ain't a shooter. Some of the blob boys, but I ain't gonna get into that shit. But anyway, that's really all I got. Did I mention? Yeah, I made a video about that. But just in case, Zoe and Melo will be playing with Team Triple B's as soon as the season is over and they get an opportunity to. They just can't play because contractual obligation. The season has to end before they can play in the Drew League. That also means the other superstars and stuff too. Matter of fact, after Game 7, I can't remember if it was July 22nd or 23rd, but the Olympics start for basketball start after that. The finals probably won't go that long, but you're gonna see this is gonna be one of the busiest summers because you're gonna have the Olympics and that sport, the draft coming up after that, summer league, and then training camps and football. Like, there's so much stuff that's gonna happen. Like, we're about to have a very busy off season, so keep your eyes on the lookout for that. I really can't wait to see Jello, Zoe, and Melo hoop for Team Triple B's. That's going to be interesting to watch. And I can't wait to see all these workout videos for some of these guys and free agency in general, because I just want to see what Zoe's decision is. One more thing. That's what I forgot. Zoe dropped a single, a new single with Jello. You can go check it out on, matter of fact, hold on. Do I still have it? Because I was listening to it before I started this. Hold on. Yeah, it's called My Town. It's not that long. It's like 2 minutes, 40 seconds. And there's a lot of auto-tune, but it's just him and Jello just, rapping and stuff. Y'all know that this is the time of the year when, Zoe start dropping music. So within the next month, he'll probably have the whole album out. But I like the song. It was alright, but anyway, that's it. Y'all have a good one. Peace.